Okay, let's unpack this. When you picture Alaska, you're probably, thinking stunning nature, right? Tundra, glaciers, maybe a moose wandering by.
Absolutely, the classic image.
But for this exploration, we're diving into a side of the last frontier that's, well, a little more shadowy. Today, we're taking an in-depth look at something really chilling. The incredibly haunted places scattered across Alaska. Our research, our sources, they paint a picture of a land that's not just beautiful, but also full of whispers and things that can't quite be explained.
And what's so interesting, I think, is how these stories, these ghost stories, they aren't just random blips. They often tie right into Alaska's history.
Exactly.
The gold rush boom towns, the really remote communities, it all adds this layer of intrigue. It really shows how the past can leave such a deep mark on a place, an echo almost.
Totally agree. And for this journey, we've pulled together some genuinely spine-tingling accounts, tales of spectral residents, and some seriously eerie happenings all over the state.
Sounds fast.
So if you're ready for a few chills, let's explore some of the most famously haunted spots in Alaska.
Let's do it.
We're kicking off this deep dive with places that are just utterly abandoned, shrouded in mystery. And right at the top, a place often called one of the most haunted in Alaska's history, like, hands down, Portlock.
Portlock, yeah. The place is incredibly eerie. The history there, it's dark. In the 1940s, people in the village started disappearing.
Disappearing how?
Violently, and under circumstances nobody could explain. Some bodies were found, but others just gone, vanished. And the stories from back then, they talked about these large, shadowy creatures out in the woods, this feeling of darkness just hanging over the whole area.
That's terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
And this abandonment, it highlights something we'll probably see again today. How fear, whether it's, supernatural or something else, can just completely reshape a community.
What gets me about Portlock is how fast it happened. The accounts say tools were just dropped, homes boarded up, like everyone fled practically overnight. Our research shows it's super remote now, only boat or float plane access. And the land, it's private, owned by the native village of Nanwalek. You can't just go there without explicit permission. So, that sudden abandonment, what does that tell you about the sheer terror people must have felt?
Well, it suggests Portlock isn't just another ghost town. It's like this stark reminder of how the unknown can impact people psychologically.
Yeah.
Driving a whole village to just disappear.
Leaving this energy behind.
Right. It makes you wonder how many ghost towns weren't just about economics, but about a fear that just became unmanageable. Even today, many locals won't go near it. They won't even talk about it. That says a lot.
It really does. Gives you pause. Okay, moving from one abandoned place to another, but this one feels a bit different. Kennecott Ghost Town.
Ah, Kennecott. Still remote, yeah. Tucked away in the Wrangell Mountains.
This was a big copper mining town, right? Early 1900s. But like Portlock, abandoned almost overnight when the mine closed in the 30s.
That's the one. And what's striking there is how that huge, empty mill building still stands, just towering over the glacier moraine like a skeleton of industry.
Creepy.
Visitors say the air just feels charged. And the stories, ghosts of miners wandering the upper floors of the mill, figures seen in cabin windows, that kind of thing.
But unlike Portlock, you can visit Kennecott.
You can, yeah. It's a state historical park now, open seasonally. They even do tours of the mill town. So the echoes here feel maybe less about sheer terror and more about, lives just suddenly cut short. Industry vanishing.
It's a definite contrast to Portlock being completely off limits.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, something equally mysterious but visually very unique. The Igloo City Hotel near Cantwell.
Oh, Igloo, yeah, that weird abandoned igloo-shaped hotel from the 70s. They never even finished building it.
Just sitting there on this isolated stretch of the park's highway, it's such a strange landmark.
And it has its own stories, too. Reports of strange lights coming from inside, and even sightings of a woman in white looking out a window.
Really? In an unfinished building?
Apparently so. You can't just wander in anymore, though. It's roped off, private property, lots of no trespassing signs. So it just sits there, this odd, unfinished monument that seems to attract its own weird phenomena.
Okay, so from the abandoned and desolate, let's shift gears. Let's talk about places that still offer you a bed for the night, but maybe with some uninvited guests.
Haunted hospitality.
Exactly. The hotels and inns of Alaska. Why do you think so many hotels seem to crop up in these haunted lists? Is there something about hotels?
That's a really good question. I think hotels are inherently places of, high human emotion, aren't they?
True. Joy, sadness, stress.
Tragedy, even.
Yeah.
There's this constant flow of energy from people passing through. And older buildings especially, they seem to soak up those emotional imprints over decades. Like the walls themselves, remember.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Okay, let's dive into one of the big ones. The Hotel Captain Cook in Anchorage. I've heard some pretty wild stories about that place. What are the main things people report there?
Oh yeah, the Captain Cook is definitely a hot spot. The most persistent story is about a lady in white.
Ah, the classic lady in white.
Yeah, often seen near the restrooms. The belief is she's the spirit of a guest who tragically died by suicide there back in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And people often report feeling this overwhelming sense of sorrow when she's supposedly around. But it's not just her. You get reports of classic poltergeist stuff too. Doors opening and closing on their own, lights flickering, even elevators moving without anyone calling them.
Sounds like a lot for the staff to handle.
It does. Apparently, it's not just whispers. One security guard supposedly quit right on the spot after an encounter, and there's a story about a longtime doorman who just avoids the 10th floor after dark.
Can't blame him. That would make me want to check out fast, too.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of historic hotels, how about the Alaskan Hotel and Bar in Juneau? Built way back in 1913, Juneau's oldest operating hotel. It's got a reputation, too, right?
It certainly does. Room 315 is particularly infamous. There was an incident in 2007, pretty dramatic. A U.S. Navy sailor, apparently really disturbed by something he couldn't see, broke a third-story window and actually jumped out.
No way. Did he?
He survived, thankfully. But yeah, pretty extreme. Beyond that, guests and staff talk about shadowy figures, hearing disembodied voices, and another woman in white, this one seen drifting past the bar. Paranormal investigators apparently caught some unexplained stuff in the basement, too. Seems like activity is spread throughout the building.
Okay, from Juneau down the coast to Seward. The Van Gelder Hotel there, built just a few years later, 1916. It also has a long history of unexplained things happening.
It does. The main story centers on a woman named Fanny, who was reportedly murdered in the hotel back in the 1950s.
Murdered?
That's the story. And guests sometimes report hearing her footsteps pacing the hallway. Or even creepier, catching a glimpse of a woman just standing silently at the end of their bed.
Oh, nope. That's definitely unsettling.
It's apparently a real hotspot for paranormal investigators. Fanny seems to be quite present.
Then there's the Golden North Hotel up in Skagway. Another one with a really tragic backstory, isn't it? A woman haunting a specific room.
Yes, staff there often talk about her presence, especially around room 23 on the 3rd floor. The story is heartbreaking.
What happened?
She came there with her husband. He left on a gold expedition, promising to return, but he never did. And she waited and waited and eventually died of pneumonia in that room, all alone.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. And people claim to sometimes hear choking sounds or see this sort of unknown apparition, almost like her final moments are still echoing there.
Beyond these really distinct stories, it seems like lots of other Alaskan hotels have similar patterns, right? We hear about places like the Silver Bow Inn in Juneau.
Right, where people claim they see the ghost of the old baker, Gus Messerschmidt, if they're there early in the morning.
Or the Westmark Fairbanks Hotel. Reports of a huge man in room 277. Doors acting up.
Mm-hmm. And the Hilton Anchorage, too. Strange figures, weird noises, especially on the 2nd floor.
Even smaller places, like the Tonsina River Lodge in Copper Center, or the Gakona Lodge and Trading Post, which is actually Alaska's oldest operating roadhouse.
Yeah, Gakona Lodge has reports of footsteps when no one's there, sometimes even the smell of tobacco smoke when nobody's smoking. It really seems like any building with a long enough or maybe intense enough history can hold on to these presences.
And sadly, some of these places don't even exist anymore, but the stories persist. Like the Motherlode Lodge in Palmer.
That's right. It was known for unexplained feelings, banging on doors, curtains moving on their own. But tragically, it burned down in 2015. The stories outlasted the building itself.
Okay, this deep dive wouldn't be complete if we didn't touch on some maybe unexpected locations. Educational spots, public spaces that seem to have a supernatural twist. It feels kind of surprising to hear about hauntings in places like schools or hospitals.
It absolutely does. These aren't old inns built on dramatic history necessarily. They're functional community buildings, which almost makes the hauntings seem even more intriguing somehow.
Let's start with a Wendy Williamson Auditorium at the University of Alaska Anchorage. Apparently, it's a real paranormal hotspot on campus. Not just one ghost, but maybe 5 distinct ones.
Yeah, the reports there are quite specific. They talk about a woman in white again, a little girl, and even an aggressive male spirit.
Aggressive how?
Well, the story goes he's actually pushed women down the stairs, particularly women with long brown hair, oddly enough.
Seriously, that's targeted haunting.
It seems so. People also report phantom piano music, footsteps in empty halls, seeing reflections in windows when no one's there. A visiting psychic apparently even said the building holds, quote, violent energy.
Wow, and this is an active building. People use it all the time.
Oh yeah, it hosts events year-round. So these aren't old tales, these are ongoing encounters people are having. The variety of phenomena and that aggression really make it stand out.
Okay, next. Way out to Nightmute High School. It's in a tiny Yupik village. Back in the 90s, the janitor started reporting some weird stuff, right?
He did. Hearing desks scraping across floors, doors slamming, even kids laughing long after everyone had gone home for the day. And apparently, other staff members backed up his claims.
What's supposed to be causing it?
Well, the main story revolves around a little girl said to haunt the school's bathrooms.
Little girl.
Yeah, known for flushing toilets, flicking lights on and off. People say she also wanders around humming or sometimes plays with basketballs left out in the gym.
That's kind of sad, but also creepy. Any idea why she'd be there?
This is the really unsettling part. Apparently, a grave was discovered underneath one of the classrooms, room 106.
Under the school.
Yeah, and it's important to remember, like the auditorium, this is an active school, not a tourist spot. These are things staff and maybe students are experiencing.
Okay, our last public space is Fairbanks Memorial Hospital. Hospitals always seem ripe for ghost stories, given everything that happens there. What are the reports like from Fairbanks Memorial?
Pretty classic hospital haunting stuff, actually. Longtime staff, especially nurses on the night shift, report call buttons going off in empty rooms. Hearing footsteps echoing down empty halls, seeing a figure in white moving silently past the nurses' stations.
How do these experiences feel different from, say, a haunted hotel? Is the vibe different?
It seems maybe more poignant. In a hospital, the emotional intensity is just constantly high, right? Life, death, healing, suffering.
Yeah, true.
One nurse reported hearing a lullaby playing faintly from a locked storage room. That's quite specific and sad. And there are also these interesting reports that whenever an infant patient is close to death, these mysterious spirits appear in the nursery wing.
Spirits? Like what?
The nurses apparently perceive them as friendly, maybe even like angels. It suggests maybe not all hospital hauntings are scary or negative.
So almost like empathetic spirits.
Yeah, possibly. But there's other weird stuff too. Sudden cold spots, the sound of babies crying coming from empty rooms, standard spooky fare mixed with these potentially benevolent apparitions, and again, active hospital, not open for ghost tours.
Definitely not. Okay, let's move on to some really unique and unsettling locations now. Places where Alaska's history and local legends just seem to completely intertwine with the spooky stuff.
These are often the most colorful stories, I find.
Absolutely. Like the Red Onion Saloon in Skagway. Skagway itself is such a gold rush town. And the Red Onion, it was originally a brothel, right? Now it's a bar and museum.
That's right. They even have guides dressed as madams leaning into the history, and it's supposedly home to Lydia.
Lydia.
The spirit of a former madam. She's said to still watch over the upstairs rooms, her old quarters. Paranormal investigators have documented cold spots near her room. Bartenders have smelled unexplained perfume.
Does she interact with people?
Apparently. She's said to water the plants sometimes. And she can supposedly be a bit aggressive towards men. Quite the personality, even in the afterlife.
Huh. And isn't there another famous Skagway ghost associated with the Red Onion?
Yeah, Soapy Smith, the infamous gold rush con artist. He wasn't connected to the brothel directly, but he was gunned down not far from there, and some say his spirit still lingers around that area too. Adds to the town's whole haunted vibe.
Okay, now for something really unique. Whittier, and specifically Begich Towers. This is that place where almost the entire town lives in one building, right?
Exactly. A 14-story tower with apartments, stores, the post office, church, everything. A literal city under one roof.
It must feel pretty isolated, especially in winter. And apparently they have some permanent residents who aren't exactly paying rent.
That's the word on the street, or rather, in the hallways. There's supposedly one ghost who likes to whistle while strolling through the building.
A whistling ghost.
And another one known for stomping up and down the stairs. The city manager apparently once woke up hearing rustling in his kitchen, but no one was there.
That would be unnerving, especially when you're snowed in.
Locals say it's definitely creepiest in winter, when heavy snow can make leaving impossible for days or weeks. All those strange noises and sightings. Gives you that feeling you're truly never alone in that building.
And also in Whittier, there's the Buckner Building, another city under one roof, but this one's abandoned, right? A crumbling ruin?
Yeah, it was a huge, self-contained military complex back in the day. Had a bowling alley, movie theater, everything. Now it's just this massive, graffiti-covered shell.
Is it considered haunted, too?
People who've trespassed, because it's definitely off-limits and dangerous, report the usual stuff. Cold spots, hearing distant voices, just this really oppressive, heavy feeling inside. Even looking at it from the outside is kind of unsettling. The decay itself feels almost haunted.
Right. Next, let's talk about the old Jesse Lee Home for Children in Seward. Opened in the 1920s as an orphanage. Places linked to kids often have particularly sad ghost stories.
They really do. This home suffered massive damage in the big 1964 earthquake, and the stories say, tragically, several children were killed during the quake or its aftermath. So, people who visited the site before it was demolished reported feeling this profound sense of dread and despair. They'd hear sounds like children giggling, jump ropes hitting the ground, balls bouncing, when no one was there.
And seeing things, too.
Yeah, small, shadowy figures seen flitting past windows. Just incredibly poignant and sad. It's worth noting, the building itself started demolition in late 2020, but those stories, those echoes of the children, they definitely remain.
Out on the water now, the Eldred Rock Lighthouse in Lynn Canal. It's the oldest original lighthouse in Alaska, built because of all the shipwrecks in the area.
Exactly. It stands as a monument to maritime tragedy, really. And the most infamous wreck connected to it is the Clara Nevada.
What happened with the Clara Nevada?
Steamship, back in 1898. Ran aground near the island, caught fire, and sank. Claimed 75 lives. And adding to the tragedy, it was supposedly carrying hundreds of pounds of gold rush gold.
So the ghosts are from the shipwreck.
That's the belief. The souls of those passengers and sailors are said to haunt the island and the waters around it. People can visit the lighthouse, but it's considered a very sacred space. You need to be extremely respectful, understanding the tragic history there. The echoes of that catastrophe feel very present.
Okay, switching gears to a classic, local spooky legend. The Darker Road in Chugiak. This one involves a really tragic accident, right? An axe.
Yeah, it's one of Alaska's really well-known kind of gruesome ghost stories. It's passed down through generations.
What's the story?
It involves a little 5-year-old girl who, according to the legend, accidentally killed herself with an axe while trying to show off for her father.
Oh, that's horrific.
It gets worse. The story goes her father was so distraught he carried her body out into the woods and then died of hypothermia himself, still cradling her.
Just awful.
Oh.
And the haunting.
It's alleged that if you drive down Badarka Road really late, around 3:30 in the morning, you might see the apparition of the man by the roadside, still holding his daughter. It's just this raw, incredibly emotional image that really captures the sometimes unforgiving nature of the Alaskan wilderness and tragedy.
Wow. Okay, finally, let's head up high into the Talkeetna Mountains to Independence Mine and Hatcher Pass, another abandoned mining operation, now a state park. What kind of ghostly leftovers do you get from a place built on gold fever?
Well, it's a place of intense labor, big dreams, and probably a lot of disappointment too, right? All that energy seems to linger.
So what do visitors report?
You get reports of hearing footsteps crunching on gravel paths when nobody's around, doors creaking open in the abandoned buildings on perfectly still days, cold spots in the old bunkhouses where miners haven't slept in decades.
Any voices?
Some people even claim to hear voices like muffled talking, echoing from deep inside the mine tunnels. It really feels like the sheer effort, the hope, the despair of that whole gold rush era is still somehow palpable there, clinging to the rocks and the old buildings.
So after hearing all this, what does it all mean for you, our listener? We've covered a lot of ground, abandoned towns, busy hotels, schools, hospitals, all these stories that kind of blur the line between local folklore and things that genuinely seem inexplicable.
Right. It's clear these aren't just isolated little campfire tales. They form this larger, quite dense tapestry of the strange across Alaska.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does. It raises that question. Why Alaska? Why does this place, with all its incredible natural beauty, also seem to have so many of these chilling stories?
Maybe the isolation, the dramatic history.
I think those play a huge part. The isolation, the intensity of the gold rush, the impact of these past tragedies we've talked about, and maybe also the rich indigenous traditions and their connection to the land and spirit world. Perhaps it all creates this unique environment.
An environment where stories aren't just told, but really felt.
Exactly, felt across generations. Allowing these energetic imprints, these echoes, to persist and actually be perceived by people.
So whether you're To total skeptic about this stuff or a full-on believer, you have to admit, these haunted places add this really captivating, mysterious layer to the last frontier.
Absolutely. Makes the state even more unforgettable, I think. It gives you this different lens to look at its history and really the human experience within that landscape.
Definitely. So, as you think about all these stories we've shared, maybe consider this. What is it about certain places? Places once bustling with life or marked by really strong human emotion, whether it's joy or tragedy? What allows those echoes of the past to linger so powerfully, to become part of the place's identity?
What is it that truly seems to bind a spirit or an energy or just a memory to a location? That's the lingering question, isn't it?